Hello, I'm Pip Waller and this is Being Human, where I talk about various aspects of being a person. Today is more in the theme of health, or like physical theme, and it's to do with cortisol, which is one of the hormones from our adrenal glands. So the adrenal glands, they're little sort of hats that sit on your kidneys. Your kidneys are about 3 to 4 inches long, and they are, if you put your hands behind your back sort of and feel your bottom rib just above there and tucked in under the diaphragm, that's where your kidneys are. Sitting on top of them, each one, the little hat, is called the adrenal gland or suprarenal. And they make, the middle of them makes adrenaline and the outside makes cortisol and aldosterone and some androgens, some sex hormones. So particularly think about cortisol, because what made me think about doing this video was somebody that's coming to see me that's been on steroid hormones, cortisol, from the doctor for an inflammatory condition and is just come off them. So you can't come off those kind of drugs quickly. You have to do it very slowly. But actually, the last bit, when you come off them, often you get some symptoms for at least a couple of weeks. Most people get some withdrawal symptoms, we could call them. But I thought I was explaining to this person what was going on for them. It's quite normal to be feeling like that. And I thought, maybe other people want to know about this. So here's how it works. Cortisol, it's a hormone. It's a chemical drug, internal drug that your body makes and puts into the blood. It goes around the blood, and any cell it comes into contact with that has receptors for it will react to it in a certain way. So we've got loads of hormones in our body that are a big part of how we control and keep everything in balance. So one of the big ways that hormones work, all the hormones work, is if there's a high level of it in the blood, the gland that makes it will make less of it. It's like supply and demand, or it's called a negative feedback mechanism actually in physiology. It's like if there's a high level of cortisol in your blood, the adrenal cortex that makes cortisol will not make so much because it's already there. So if you've been taking now cortisol's got many different effects in the body. I've got other videos about that. I won't talk about it now. But one of the effects is it's anti-inflammatory, and that's why it's used as a drug, like manufactured and given to people at tablets, or sometimes externally as a cream or inhaler for asthma. It's an anti-inflammatory, very powerful. So it suppresses the body's inflammatory response, which is, as you know, if you've listened to previous videos, it's a healing mechanism in the body. So, but it can also cause pain, etc., etc. So when you've been on steroid hormone as a tablet, a pill, or an injection, or whichever way, and you stop taking it, it's like there's a bit of a deficiency in you, because the adrenal glands, they've been out of the habit of working because somebody else has been providing the cortisol. Now they've got to get going. So very often you get a period of withdrawal, which are basically the symptoms of cortisone insufficiency, or like a low cortisol in the blood. Now, how you generally feel is kind of a bit low, depressed, irritable, mood swings, up and downy. You can be achy, like physical muscle and joint pains and aches. You often are a bit dizzy and lightheaded, and very often a lack of appetite, a loss of appetite. That's called anorexia, a loss of appetite. And also like a weakness, a feeling of weakness in your body, and a fatigue, tiredness. And often people feel a bit nauseous as well. That goes with a loss of appetite. So those are the symptoms, the way you feel when you've got a cortisol insufficiency or a low cortisol. Now, actually, there's a disease, a quite serious condition in the body, which is called Addison's disease, which is when the adrenal cortex is not making its hormones. And that actually is quite a serious disease. Left untreated, it could be even eventually life-threatening. So those are similar symptoms, but probably more extreme: nausea and vomiting, very much a weakness and a low feeling, a lot of fatigue, often a low blood pressure, and pains in the body, joints and so on. And the other thing people get with Addison's often is a loss of weight, like a wasting away in the body. Now, so then there's something sort of else that I want to talk about, which is what is called in naturopathic circles adrenal insufficiency. Now, or adrenal fatigue. And the thinking behind this is because our adrenal glands are the things that make the stress hormones. If we've had a long period of stress, which let's face it, most of us have, because our life, our world, the way we're all living is pretty stressful. And it's not easy to go against that. So often we've had long years of that. The adrenal glands have had to produce. Then the thinking is they get tired and they get low. And actually the symptoms, they're quite vague symptoms, adrenal exhaustion or adrenal insufficiency, adrenal fatigue. They're quite vague in the terms of, aches and pains, being tired, being low, like a low immunity. We might also have a low blood sugar as well as a low blood pressure, or like fluctuations in that, and a depression, and also often low libido, not much interest in sex, and pains in the stomach, so the digestive system. So there's a little thing I want to say, which is that the orthodox medical profession, the establishment, they don't believe in adrenal fatigue. They say there's Addison's, like a proper insufficiency in the adrenals, or there's nothing, because it's not really measurable with blood tests what naturopaths call adrenal exhaustion or tiredness. The other thing that you often get is a dip in the afternoon, a dip of energy in the afternoon, which is interesting because in Chinese medicine, that's the time, the afternoon time is the time of the kidney energy, the water energy, and that's the kidney energy that's talked about in Chinese medicine actually includes a lot about the adrenal function. So if you go to a doctor and say, I think I've got, adrenal fatigue or whatever, they actually got they look down on it, quite a sort of patronising idea. Oh yes, naturopaths are saying that and selling people expensive supplements and so on, but it doesn't really exist. Either you've got a measurable Addison's disease or you've got nothing to do with your adrenals. So now I'm not suggesting anyone goes and buys lots of expensive supplements, but definitely it does make sense to think you've been stressed for a long period of time, and then it's not so easy for the glands that have to keep up with that to keep going. And so fortunately there's some things that aren't terribly expensive and complicated that you can do very easily to help support your adrenal glands. So I thought I'd just talk a little bit about some of the herbs. For example, you can take lovely licorice, which maybe some people hate it, but if you like it, you can even take, not licorice all sorts, but a good quality, proper, like licorice little sweetie that's got very little or no sugar at all, and a high level of the actual plant, not just a flavouring. But you could take licorice like that, or you can get a licorice sticks and chew on them, or you can make, it's a root, the licorice root that's used in medicine, or you can get tea, licorice tea. So licorice to support your adrenal glands. Another great herb that grows absolutely beautiful is the borage or starflower. Borage tea, that's a adrenal tonic. You also, ashwagandha or withania, that's an Ayurvedic herb, that's a great support for the adrenals. And rhodiola, another one. That's like a little kind of thing that grows on rocks, very barren and hard places, which kind of interesting to think, perhaps when life's been like that, we've been, between a rock and a hard place. Rhodiola. I can't remember the other name of it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And the other thing you might find useful is the ginsengs, sometimes Panax ginseng or Eleutherococcus Siberian ginseng. They're a little bit more expensive than the other things. The other general things to support your adrenals, keep away from caffeine and stimulants, because they're just going to push the adrenal glands to work harder. And what we want to do is not push them to work harder, but nourish them and support them. So keep away from caffeine, rest. Take a siesta after lunch if you have that tired period. Go and have a lie down. Keep away from sugar as much as possible. Get plenty of sleep. That usually means going to bed early. And then some vitamins and minerals that are good. Zinc and magnesium, they're often very key. Iron, sometimes people need iron. Vitamin D and the B vitamins, and the omegas, and also tryptophan, which is one of the amino acids. So, and then instead of having the caffeine tea, have sort of calming things like chamomile and rhubarb. And finally, I'd say you need to learn to say no. If something feels like I don't really want to do that, say no. We all need to slow down a bit. I'll put some links at the end of this to a video about cortisol and also one about resting, because that's often what we need to do. So thanks for listening. I'm Pip Waller. This is Being Human.